Mr. William.
Thank you, Chairman. One clarification for Minister. On community outreach efforts, earlier he mentioned iLab and the chatbot that's available for the public to use remotely to find out about legal processes, etc. I'd like to ask him whether that chatbot is able to handle members of the public who need to use other languages such as Chinese, Malay, and Tamil. Thank you.
As I understand it, currently it is not able to. You're not able to currently navigate iLab in different languages. Nonetheless, if a litigant in person or litigant who is looking at commencing a claim needs to find resources in other languages, there are other facilities available, such as the concierge, the front staff counter, all of whom will be able to address other languages. We will look at the possibility of enhancing iLab to deal with other languages, but as Ms. Lim might appreciate, it is not often as easy to deal with matters on iLab, which looks at giving legal advice, an outline of the laws, and it's not easily translatable into different languages all the time.
Mr. Chris D'Souza.
Chairman, I first thank the Minister for his elucidation on many aspects that his ministry and Minister Shanmugam's ministry run. I have three clarifications. The first is the framework of the legislation. I would say that, as I said previously, excellent moves, timely, needed. I want to pick up the point that I made about small landlords, because I do feel that some are kept in the lurch and are vulnerable because the depreciation in profit of their tenant is actually felt even more so by the small landlord in the rebate that the small landlord gives to the tenant. So I think there needs to be a level of deftness and nimbleness with which an assessor assesses whether a small landlord needing this income for rental retirement is merits giving a rebate or not. That's the first point that I would like to make in clarification. The second point, I thank the Minister for his explanation on the IP regime. My points were really about how we need to be able to protect IP regime in Singapore and how we must have a dispute resolution mechanism in Singapore for IP. I should declare that I'm a practitioner in IP law. But the third point really is how we can monetize that intellectual property, how we can monetize that invention in Singapore in the overall scheme of IP protection. My third and last clarification, sir, is about the caution with which we should approach the funding or overfunding of criminal legal aid. In 1997, the Lord Chancellor, Lord Irvine, in England, characterized legal aid as a leviathan with a ferocious appetite, i.e. it was sucking up so much money, so much of the government's budget, and it lent itself to abuse. So while I support access to justice for the vulnerable, indeed I support it greatly, I think we should move towards this gingerly and ensure that there is no abuse of the system, both for the sake of the litigant as well as the overall judicial system. These are my three clarifications.
Thank you, Mr. D'Souza. On your first point on small landlords, I'd like to assure Mr. D'Souza that it is precisely with deafness in mind that the framework was designed, to use assessors and not to use a strict legalistic adjudicatory process. And in the context of looking at a dispute between a landlord and a tenant or two parties who have filed a notification, the assessor can take into account factors which a court or a judge sitting in an adjudicatory process might not otherwise be able to do. And this includes looking at the tenant's performance, looking at the ability of the tenant's business to pick up thereafter, and take all this into account when looking at the relevant compensation. On IP, I agree with Mr. D'Souza. To monetize it and to take advantage of it, I think there are two broad aspects. The first is to have a system that is strong, clean, transparent, robust, and as I mentioned earlier, quick. Second, it is to develop a framework to look at how we can monetize or value intangible assets, which make up the majority of assets on a given company's balance sheet. To look at how that can be assessed, it can be quantified, and how that can then be used as leverage. Third, on the access to justice points, I think Mr. D'Souza's points are well taken, and it's precisely for that reason that I've said my ministry continues to study it, its impact in other jurisdictions, the experiences there, and to be careful to scope it, to walk a fine line between the balance of looking at how we can help the indigenous and making sure that the state's resources are best deployed and that it is not being taken advantage of unfairly. Thank you, sir.
Ms. Heniso.
Thank you, Chairman. In relation to the ILAP point that is raised by member Ms. Sylvia Lim, I just wanted to share in my perspective as the co-chairperson of the Community Legal Clinic. What I also understand is that actually there is already a pilot project. There's a collaborations between the Legal Aid Bureau in relation to the ILAP, where it collaborates with our community legal clinics. The volunteer lawyers are actually able to use this system to provide the necessary preliminary legal advice to the residents in need. And needless to say, we take into account that there is a need for residents who doesn't understand English, and the volunteer lawyers are there to assist them in the various languages. I have one point of clarifications for the Minister. One is in relation to opening up more opportunities for our law students and our law graduates, whether Ministry can explore widening the scope of the places where law graduates can serve their training contract. In this regard, I think it will be helpful if we can consider adding places such as the Law Society pro bono services as one of them, as that encourages, because currently I understand that they are also lagging in terms of the manpower. There is a constraint there. But at the same time, if we are able to open up the scope, that will encourage more people to embrace volunteering in their professions. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you. We certainly encourage lawyers to take part in pro bono service, offer their services, and anything we can do to promote that area, we will consider. Having said that, training contract is for the purposes of ensuring that the trainee lawyer comes through to the market, is able to serve and practice in the market. So it may not be feasible to just serve the training contract in the Law Society's pro bono office, but that can be certainly one factor and one aspect of practice that they can look into.
Mr. Murali Pillai, would you like to withdraw your amendment, please?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to thank the Honourable Second Minister for Law for his characteristic, considered and full responses to the speeches made by the Honourable MPs for this COS debate for Min Law. I would also like to express my appreciation to the officers of the Ministry of Law as well as its statutory boards for their devotion and duty in executing Min Law's mission. I had the privilege of meeting some in-law officers recently. They all expressed the hope that they don't have to be involved in so many bills with under certificates of urgency. I also hope so too, but I'm confident that if the situation demands it, they will rise to the challenge. With that, I beg leave to withdraw the amendment.
Is the honourable member given leave to withdraw the amendment? I think leave of the majority is given. The amendment is withdrawn. The question is that the sum of $297,224,700 for head R stand part of the main estimates. As many as are of that opinion say aye. To the contrary, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. The question is that the sum of $220,364,400 for head R stand part of the development estimates. As many as are of that opinion say aye. To the contrary, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it.